predicting long-term stock prices is very difficult because look, last 3 years we had COVID, we had war in Ukraine, we had interest rates skyrocketing, we have Israel crisis now, and so on. So there are so many things that are very hard to predict over there. So long-term predictions is really esoteric to me. The very short-term predictions, like over the day or weeks, is also very difficult because there are so many things happening with all these traders and all these derivatives used and short selling and so on. So what about the mid-range, which is like a few months, a few quarters? That's where I sometimes try to get some idea about that from CNBC and Bloomberg News and some smart guys talking there. So about 3 years ago, actually more like 3.5 years ago, I started to have a journal that you can see here, and this journal is about specific predictions famous guys on CNBC channel do. And I started it about when the pandemic started because it was such an interesting period, and it was very interesting to see what people would say. So if we can see here, Jeffrey Gundlach, the bond guy, predicted weak dollar and gold going high on 10th of March 2020. And then I give scores because now I'm in the future, so future me can kind of value those predictions from -5 being completely wrong to 5 being right. And as you can see, you can go through some famous names here. Chamath is a famous figure in Silicon Valley. He says there will be a no V-shaped recovery for years on 10th of March 2020, which is obviously a completely wrong thing, because now in the future we can see, like, if S&P 500 is a kind of thing, we literally see a V-shaped recovery happening there, and even more. So that's a video about this journal I thought to make, because I don't think this kind of content is available anywhere. So here it is. So I will quickly go through just first few predictions so you understand my scoring system. And this journal itself will be available on Tickernomics website. If you go to blog and you subscribe, then you can get it in your email. So let's go through the journal very quickly. So then Carl Icahn is famous figure in investing for decades, says that sell-off will continue again on March 10th, and he was wrong. Nobody knew that Federal Reserve will issue a ton of money, trillions of dollars, so that will override all these predictions. Then Goldman says buy gold, which was kind of neutrally measured because gold didn't perform very well. If we again look at that period, gold price is 2020, just beginning of it, that's when the crisis happened. So buy gold. Yeah, it did perform, but then it slid. So it kind of was correct, but then they also should have provided time range when you actually need to sell it, because if you bought gold and just held it for years, you would have almost no return. So not great prediction. That's why I put 0, because it was not clear what you need to do with gold you purchased. Paul Tudor Jones believes recovery in 3 months, which is very unusual at that time. If you remember, everybody was panicking, and he said no, there will be recovery, but he also said no millions people dying. He rightly was worried about that, so he was somewhat right, somewhat wrong on things, but I put 3 here, so it's a balance. Mark Cuban raises cash as he thinks fall will continue, which is a wrong strategy. If you listen to Cuban, just held cash, you would lose out essentially on pretty much everything going up in price. Ray Dalio predicts depression bigger than 2000, doesn't like cash. This guy often does that, but again, timing is everything. So you got the idea how I was scoring this, and again, this whole things I was just writing down as I heard them in the headlines. The interesting thing about this is you have the average, so I took average of all this prediction, and overall average a little bit surprised me. I actually thought it will be very negative, but it's almost zero, so not too positive, just a little bit negative overall. So if you just followed all the advice from all these headlines that I randomly picked from CNBC that attracted my attention, then you would still lose money, but not by much. So yeah, interesting. Now I would like to point to specific predictions over the years. So very interesting point from Tom Lee. He is very frequently featured on CNBC, and he says on the last day of 2020, 3 times growth of Bitcoin by 2021 end. And I put 1 because he was neither wrong nor right. Because if you look what happened with Bitcoin, so he said it just at the end of 2020, so right about there. So the Bitcoin from 32,000 went up to 55,000, then it dropped, then it went again to 64,000, then it dropped again. So, and by the end of the year, it almost returned to where it was at the beginning, so just a little bit higher. So you would get a profit of like 10% or so on Bitcoin over the whole year, which not great, but if you knew that you need to sell at any of these 2 peaks, that would be great. So this kind of advice is interesting, but again, timing is everything here, and also shows how Bitcoin is extremely dynamic asset. Now another one is from famous short caller Michael Berry, short seller, sorry, who said that he bets against Tesla and promises hyperinflation. What is interesting about that is obviously he was right about hyperinflation coming, but not hyperinflation, it's just strong inflation. I wouldn't call it hyperinflation yet. Then for Tesla, this is April 2021, and if you look at Tesla, let's see. So if you look at Tesla, April 2021, he correctly predicted this huge jump in price of Tesla. He did it exactly when it was about to start, and I kind of respect that, because it's very difficult to time things. Of course, maybe he was just lucky, but I don't know. Then another interesting prediction is from CNBC analysts. They always screaming for weeks. I remember that during AMC stock, GameStop stock, meme stuff, they were all saying sell it, and they said it on week of essentially during beginning of June 2021. And if you look at GameStop stock, oops, sorry. So they said it right about, not here, but yeah, somewhere in this period, June, right here they said it. After that it was just falling and falling. So not always you can say the market is rigged and the mass media is wrong all the time. No, they were exactly right at the exact right moment, essentially. I think one of the worst bets I saw on this is this famous YouTube channel Meet Kevin. The guy bought Hypo stock, and he bought it at price 523. Let's see what Hypo is doing now. It's actually not bad, except he probably bought it before the splits. So stock splits devalued it. So he bought it, let's see at what time. He said it on September 2021. September. Yeah, so somewhere there in hundreds. Then the stock just keeps falling, and I think the price I have is before stock splits, so that's why it's like that. Next is, let's see, and correct me if I'm wrong on this one, by the way. Wrong on inflation, but somewhat right on stocks. No black and white in real life. Yeah, so a lot of all these predictions, what I can see is that I didn't detect that much of market manipulation or thing. I just see reasonable people talking about reasonable things. So like in here there is this guy, his YouTube channel is called Uneducated Economist, and also Michael Penta. They say 22 will have deflation and everything bubble bust. So they were right, kind of, that stocks went down in the year, but there was no deflation at all. In fact, we had a lot of inflation. So I don't know if they randomly said that or whatever. But overall, I still score them negative, but not extreme negative. Then another interesting bet was from Michael Goldberg. He advises a client to trim stocks in favor of cash, and the timing here is very interesting. Cash might be a good idea at this point, but how long to hold it again? So if you look at 1st of October 2021, October, somewhere there. So what he says is have cash, and indeed, if I did sell everything at this point somewhere and hold cash for good portion of 2022 and then I bought stuff, yeah, I would be very good. So a good advice, but it would be also a good point to provide when you need to exit. But then maybe he did say that I just missed when he said to exit the cash. Now the next one is here, very good timing again. Yeah, good prediction of pullback. And again, Tom Lee, who is a very frequent guy on CNBC, he predicts good 2022 and bullish on energy. So yes, he was right on bullish on energy part, wrong about performance in 2022. I wouldn't say it was a great year at all. I wrote Kramer is finally right. He said buy gold on August 2022. Let's see, gold, August 2022. August, yeah, right about there. So he was almost correct to buy gold just before it went up. Good prediction there. So yeah. Then the only market manipulation I could kind of detect, and again maybe it was just a consensus or everyone kind of built up, but there was this big moment between October and November when a lot of famous people like Jamie Dimon, JP Morgan's Daniel Pinto, who else, Sam Zell, and BTIG, it's featured often on that company's featured often, Morgan Stanley, of course, and billionaire Druckenmiller. So they all push this idea of huge price drops and so on. And if you look at autumn of 2022, yeah, it's completely wrong, because from that moment we have only up, up, up. So yeah, pretty strange why everyone synchronously would say that. They probably were not doing manipulation of any sort, but just knew about rates rising, and when rates rise, stocks don't perform very well. So honestly, S&P 500 very often criticized it only has very big stocks, very big by capitalization companies, so small companies actually didn't perform that great. But again, everybody looks always at S&P 500 for general market performance, and they were all wrong, and all at the same time, which is a bit strange. Very similar to COVID, when most people were wrong, and during that period, and very few people were right. So interesting. Anyway, so that's my chart. Now I will just do some specific names. So we have these great guys here, 8 guys. Most of these faces, if you follow economics and stock markets, probably you recognize. And yeah, so these are essentially averages from that log I have. So you can see these are pretty bad averages. Only 2 measurements for Chamath Palipatien, very hard to pronounce that. And then yeah, only 2 measurements for this guy, Carl Icahn, and for these guys only 2 measurements. This one has 3 measurements. For Jeffrey we have 2. This is a bond guy, and he usually kind of negative on things, because bonds, you want to buy bonds when things are bad. But he is not sharply negative, as you can see. Surprisingly, one of the richest guys here is extremely wrong when he says things, at least in what I heard. I don't know why. And then Tom Lee has biggest number of measurements, and he almost close to 0, which probably if we had enough measurements for other guys would also be close to 0. And this guy is frequently on CNBC, but he is in different category of guys. These are all billionaires. This guy is just millionaire, but he did run PIMCO at one point, and he is a professor as well at Wharton School. So yeah. Anyway, that's pretty much what I wanted to say. Yeah. So conclusion is, I didn't see that much of, everything is rigged. I see a lot of reasonable predictions based on logic and market information from various sources, but it just shows how complex the economy is and how mysterious sometimes economy is. So yeah, good luck. Thank you.